April 11th. I'm your host, Daniel Hill. This is the weekend edition of the Instagram Stories. Today on the show, you're going to hear about an upcoming webinar from the Meta team all about Reels, the latest strategies, creative insights. It will be coming up in just a couple of weeks. I will give you more information. And additionally, the head of Instagram did a long podcast interview where he shared some things he hasn't talked about with respect to Instagram previously. I'm going to share those on the show. All of that and more on today's episode. But first, here's a quick word from our sponsor. Welcome back. Let's start with the upcoming Reels webinar. The Meta team is putting on a webinar from essentials to excellence when it comes to Reels. They say that this will be an engaging session where you'll discover how to harness the full potential of Reels to drive impactful business results. The expert-led webinar will provide you with the latest strategies and creative insights to elevate your Reels campaigns. This is the first time I've ever seen Meta do a session like this. It could not really be that valuable. Once you sign on, you might say, oh, I already know all the things they're talking about here. Or it could be very valuable, but it doesn't cost anything. I will link to the place to sign up in the show notes. You can check it out. Moving on. Recently, the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, was on the Build Your Tribe podcast with Brock Johnson, answering questions about the Instagram algorithm. I'm going to play you some snippets of that interview, particularly the ones that I thought provided information that I had not heard before. Let's talk about one specific question that came up. Obviously, it's important on Instagram to have your content get shared. This is a key thing. But do shares count differently? I actually thought this was a very good question, and here's why. If someone shares your content in a DM, obviously this is a valuable metric Instagram's looking at, but they might only share that to 1 or 2 or maybe even 10 people who may or may not watch what they shared. By contrast, someone might share your content to their story, in which case many more people potentially might see it. If they share it in a DM and 5 or 10 people see it or whatever, but they share it on their story and 500 people see it, does that mean that it counts more in the Instagram algorithm? Interestingly, the head of Instagram answers this question.
Oh, that's a really good question. I think they're valued relatively equally because it's true that like if you send a message to one person, there's less views than if you send it to your stories and maybe thousands of people are going to see your story. But they might have seen your other stories that day anyway. And your wife might not have opened Instagram that day. And when you send her a message, her phone's going to bing and she's going to open it up most likely. Hopefully, I don't know.
Yeah.
But also because if you just think about it from the perspective of the person receiving it, like it's kind of more meaningful. If you send me something, you're like, I think you'd be really interested in this. That is a lot more meaningful than I thought everyone might want to know this thing in addition to all the other things I thought they all should know today.
Yeah.
So we look more at sends.
Gotcha.
Okay, so based on that, it seems like sends count equally regardless of where they are sent to, whether someone shares it to their story or sends it to another human. Later on in the interview, Adam Mosseri is asked about blends. I've covered blends on the show in the past. It is a feed that you would share between some of your friends, and that feed would be filled with content that you would both like. I think this is an interesting way to drive conversations, and Adam Mosseri explains in more detail.
I'm psyched about that.
I knew you were going to be psyched about this question. So tell me more about blends and kind of how it's going to operate supposedly.
So the way it works is you can start a blend with a friend in a thread. So if you and I message, there'll be a little blend icon at the top and we can start a blend, and it's just a feed of Reels that you or I or both of us might be interested in.
Okay.
And as you scroll through it, it'll show you who it's for.
Oh.
So you can be like, this one was like for Adam. You have to opt into it because it's personal, right?
Yeah.
You see my
very intimate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You get a look into the wild, weird world of your friend's interests.
Yeah.
And then the default action, if you sort of reply, is to send the message. So you're talking about it. And so it's pretty fun, actually. Yeah. I don't know if it's for everyone. You can also do it in group chats too, not just one-on-one chats. But look, I want us to be a place where you connect over your interests. We're not the best place to sit and just watch TV or video. And if I'm running late, I'm not going to DM you on Instagram. I'm probably going to WhatsApp you or hit you up on iMessage or something. but I think we can be the best place to connect with the people you care about the things you care about.
Mhm.
And to me, this sits right at the heart of that in
Yeah.
a really kind of cool way.
Yeah.
I think this is actually an interesting concept, and here's why. I have a number of group chats with my friends, and sometimes friends in that group chat share links from Instagram posts or TikTok posts. I understand why they're doing that sometimes because it's relevant to the conversation, because they know some people in that group chat are going to be interested in that content. But having a blended feed is a really interesting way to move that conversation from the group chat that we have where we're using text messaging to the Instagram DMs or even right in this separate feed. Very interesting idea. Looking forward to using that. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hear from more of this interview. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In this episode, we are listening to an in-depth interview with the head of Instagram. And in this section, you're going to hear him talk about the platform's priorities for 2025 and their goals in helping creators.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. I mean, we want to be the best platform for creators. And in some ways, I think you could make that case. In other ways, we're behind. But there are a lot of creators on Instagram, probably more than any other platform. So if we look at how many people we think are creators are on the platform, that looks like a bigger number than YouTube channels or most other platforms.
Mhm.
But, you never know for sure. And we know that there's a lot of competition, and we know that there's a lot of scrutiny and a lot of concerns about our platform from the creator community, as there are about all platforms. And so what we're trying to do is better understand the broader group's needs and then meet those needs. The things that matter most, as far as we can tell, and you should tell me, because you probably would know better than I, certainly reach. People always want more reach. And so figuring out, but it's not just about how much reach, it's about stability, which is very hard. I think any platform that guarantees you stable reach is probably lying. But certainly there's more and less stable. But there are other things too. Like I really want us to do more as a priority on helping small creators break out, which is actually from an engineering perspective a bit more difficult. I want us to do more to reward original creators, and identifying who's creating original content is also an interesting trick. I want us to be better at trends. It takes still too long for things to pop on Instagram.
Yeah.
So those are maybe three of the top priorities for us: are valuing original content, helping smaller creators break, and also having trends just happen quickly.
Okay, for the last clip of this interview, Adam Mosseri explains where most of the sharing happens on Instagram. And no surprise, it's in the DMs, it's not in feed, and it's not in stories. Here's the clip.
So basically, if you look at how people share on Instagram, creators aside for a second, there are more photos and videos, not including text, shared in DMs than there are in stories every day. And there are way more photos and videos shared into stories than into feed every day. So yes, feed is for average folk to share photos or videos that they're really proud of, but it's a very small percentage of average folk who actually post a feed post in a given day. Whereas for creators, it's much higher. So it's becoming much more of a public domain, whereas stories and DMs are much more about where your friends are. Though obviously creators are in all of those places in different ways. But because the amount of content being shared into feed was decreasing for a long time, we've needed to figure out a way that meant that the amount of time people were spending in feed was decreasing. And so that was a negative feedback loop, because if there's less time being spent, there's less reach to go around, there's less people like and comment less, then people post less, and then there's less content to see. So then people spend less time and they like and comment less, and it was going in a circle. So recommendations was really just the only viable way to maintain feed as an important place.
Gotcha.
And it is the most important place for creators to post. Stories are awesome, but your average creator reaches way more people in feed. And so recommendations was a way to, from just a pure brass tacks business perspective, maintain feed and grow feed as an important part of Instagram. And we try to do so in a way where it would help people discover creators and other accounts that they would love but might not even know existed. And so you've seen that play out, and I pushed really hard to make sure people could see the difference between their connected and unconnected reach, because they should know where it's coming from, and what to optimize for might be different, or how to think about it might be different. So it was a business need and then a user need. And that's what we're always trying to do, is figure out something that's not only good for creators, but also good for average folk and also good for Instagram. And then at the overlap is where the good stuff happens.
I'm going to stop the clip there. Nothing you haven't heard before, but I think it is good to periodically just kind of zoom out a little bit, because on this show, sometimes we get so big on the details and the minutia of how things work that it's good to kind of take a step back and understand in greater context. That is going to do it for today's show. If you could do me a favor, leave a review of this show on Apple Podcasts. I've not gotten a review in a long time. It is very discouraging when I don't get any reviews, but if you would like to leave one, it doesn't cost you anything, and I would super appreciate it. You can get to the best place to do that, Apple Podcasts, directly from the link in the show notes. So if you don't mind, take 2 minutes and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. As always, thank you for listening, and be sure to come back next time for more social media news, strategy, and other things that you need to know.
Let me tell you a couple things that you should know about me. A product manager, but do not have a bachelor's degree. But actually that's factually a fraction of me. Another fraction's posting content irregular and irrationally. Still probably won't get a job at the Gram. They forgot, they don't know, or don't care who I am. That's why you never see me at the parties and events. My lack of followers must make me irrelevant. Don't have a course, a book to sell to make a bag of grand. Not a social media marketer, don't represent any brands. Plain to see, don't have an agency, but I got a lot of spam. Just putting in my work without the glitz and glam. Won't catch me eating fish unless it's shrimp or clam. No six pack, no risk that there's a gym card in my hand. Don't have a full-time job, but I got a lot of plans. Stay plotting, dropping knowledge on TikTok and Instagram.